What's good, combat sports fans? You already know it's your host Bando, back at it with a fresh episode because the highly anticipated Fight Island card is finally here. It is this upcoming weekend. UFC 308, Max Holloway takes on Ilia Topuria. Who is gonna walk out the UFC featherweight champion? We're gonna have to find out Saturday. I would say Saturday night, but it's Saturday during the day. And on some unfortunate stuff, your boy don't even get to see it. But we still got to break it down. So let's get right into it. Let's go. So like I said, welcome back to a fresh episode of Combat and Kick It. We are breaking down UFC 308. Max Holloway takes on Ilia Topuria. It is a fantastic matchup that is highly anticipated. I did a small little preview on it earlier, talking about just what I think could possibly happen in that matchup. It's such a good matchup. You know it's going to be pretty much mainly striking based, but two of the top guys in the entire world get to see him go at it in one of the best divisions in the world. One of the best divisions in the world, two top pound for pound guys. Let's get it. This is the shit that I like to see. So if you've been here before, you know how this goes. I break down the main card. I go from the opening of the main card all the way to the main event and give you a full breakdown. If you're not hip, if this is your first time watching, sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm about to give you some good predictions, and I'm about to break these fights down in some real ways. This is one that I've actually sat back and kind of studied a bit because I felt like I needed to start getting into these fights just a tad bit more, right? I've been trying to do it with the boxing where I'm more in depth with the breakdown and not just talking about who I think is gonna win. I want to actually get a full breakdown going. So let's get right into this shit. Let's finally do it. 2 minutes and 50 seconds of intros. Who the fuck is this guy? So you got Sharaputin Magomedov going up against Armen Petrosyan. I had to look back at his name because I forgot how to pronounce it for a second. I was about to say Arman Sarukian, and I had to look back and remind myself who it was. But good matchup. Good matchup. You have obviously undefeated with the bullet. He is a very strong striker, a good kickboxer. He throws with power, right? He's got some openings. There's some things. Yes, this man is undefeated, but I don't see him in being as like this top prospect. But he is very talented, right? He's very talented, and the cool thing, unfortunately for him, this fight is going to be on the feet. He's going up against a Thai boxer with Armen Petrosyan. He's a Thai boxer. He's smooth on the feet. Ground game is questionable. His last fight he got submitted by Rodolfo Vieira, which is funny. The last breakdown I posted, I was talking about Rodolfo Vieira getting submitted, and here we are talking about Rodolfo Vieira being the one doing the submission. But he subbed Armen in the last fight. Before that, Armen's fight, he won before. I want to say it was against Christian Leroy Duncan. I think it was his last fight. So that was his last win. This fight's interesting because, like I said, you know it's going to be stand-up. Now, when it comes to the bullet, he is a mean, aggressive striker from the southpaw position. Kicks to the body, kicks to the leg, and he will fake it out a lot and go and fake it up and then all of a sudden kick you in the head. He has like a scary aura to him. Right, he hasn't shown anything crazy with that aura yet. Obviously, if you go back to the fight with Bruno Silva, you saw Bruno Silva was able to get him down, and the wrestling and stuff like that was a tad bit questionable. But obviously that was his first fight, or I don't know if that was his debut or his second fight, but that one of his early fights. He's still fresh. He's still coming in the game, so he's still green, right? This fight is perfect for him. Right, because you don't have to worry about any ground action. You really don't. This is going to be mainly just focusing on who's the better man on the feet on that night, who's going to be looking better, who's going to be sharper, who's going to be smarter. I know everybody is leaning with the favorite with the bullet, and that is the exact way that I'm leaning as well. Not that Armen can't do it, but 8-3, seen some losses before, and I do think if this fight did have a route where it wasn't going to be standing, I do think the Bullet has enough skill overall to either control the ground or maybe get himself a submission. So I am rocking with the Bullet for that one. On to one that I am really excited for. You got Alexander Raychik going up against Magomed Ankalaev. Good fight. A lot of people, we have already talked about it, thought Magomed Ankalaev was the next guy for the title shot. This fight can stall that. This fight can completely ruin that whole opportunity that he has. Can Alexander Raychik come in here somehow, some way, and stunt that growth, that big opportunity? Can he take that from Magomed Ankalaev? Now, I'm not saying that Raychik's going to win and get a title shot, but can he take this from Magomed Ankalaev? And he might. He might. You want to know why? Ankalaev don't know how to check leg kicks. He don't check leg kicks. And people talk about the wrestling. They bring up wrestling. Look at majority of his fights. His wrestling is not that dominant. It's not that controlling. His striking is what brought him to the dance in the first place. So, if you watch most of his fights, right, people have really hyped this guy out. I mean, this is the same guy who got submitted by Paul Craig. So, I'm just saying, right, people hype this guy up a lot. I do think he is talented. He's a very good striker, and he does have good wrestling in the general sense. If you're talking about the light heavyweight division, nobody in that division wrestles. Nobody wrestles in that division. Literally. It's the most boring division if you talk in terms of wrestling, which is a good thing for a lot of ways. But it's not that exciting of a division. If Pereira wasn't in it, I don't think a lot of people would give a fuck about the division, to be honest with you. But Magomed Ankalaev has to get this win, right? He has built himself up to be the next guy in line to get the title shot against Alex Pereira. He's built himself up as the kryptonite, the boogeyman of Alex Pereira. And I personally don't see it. I personally don't believe it. I think he is a challenge, without a doubt. But I think Alex is on a different level right now. And I think he's going to continue on that path. And I want to see him continue on that path. But Alexander Raychik is the man that we got to talk about. Because he, like I said, can stunt the entire process on Saturday night. If Raychik goes in there, sticks behind a jab, works the leg kicks, and does not back up, right? Ankalaev is only going to shoot if he can get some sort of clinch, get you up against the cage, and work you down from there, right? If Raychik doesn't back up, stays pushing forward, landing good jabs, working the leg kicks, moving a little bit more than he normally would, just to avoid getting shot on, I think Raychik has a very, very good chance of winning this fight. Stick on the leg kicks, though. Do not abandon them like Jan Blachowicz did, because that was Jan Blachowicz's downfall, and that's why that fight ended up being a draw, right? He needed to continue on the leg kicks. All he had to do was continue on the leg kicks, and he would have won that fight. This is all Raychik has to do, is work the leg kick, stay behind the jab, and have good takedown defense. Don't put your back up against the cage. Don't give him opportunities to feel like he can control you. And that's your way to victory. Now, obviously, for Magomed Ankalaev, the key to victory is to kind of be more aggressive than usual, go for a finish. That's his key to victory, is having to go for a finish. The reason I say that is because Dana White's still sitting back saying that Magomed Ankalaev's got to make a statement with this fight. And it makes sense because he's not hyped. At the end of the day, you still got to sell a fight, and it's got to be hyped, right? And if it's not going to be something that's sellable, Dana's not going to get behind it. So he wants to see this man come in there, put the pressure on, make it look like an unbelievable performance, so people actually sit back and say, oh, I want to see him versus Alex Pereira. But he has to do it. Will he do it? I don't know. I think Raychik has a very good chance of stopping this opportunity. But if I had to put my money on it, I'm leaning Magomed Ankalaev, because I truly do feel like he is coming into this fight looking and he's gonna forcefully be looking for a finish, trying to get the finish, and that's the only route for him to get the title shot. I understand he's got the wins, but that's the only route to end up not having one more fight in between that and the title shot. He needs a finish, but Raychik could, like I said, if Raychik could get a finish, if Raychik could beat him in decision, if Raychik could win regardless, right? Or if the fight's boring, then both of them pretty much washed it. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens in that fight. I say that to every fight. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what fucking happens. Of course. Duh. Well, I won't. I won't see what happens until after, because I'll be at work. I just need a couple of these videos to go viral. I won't have to do no 9 to 5 no more. I could just sit here and make these videos, talk about fights, continue putting out content, and I won't have to worry about missing these early Saturday Abu Dhabi cards that I miss every single year. But anyways, moving on. You know what I'm really butthurt about though? Gane and Volkov being off of this card. That fight, I was really excited for. Just stylistically, it's an exciting fight. You knew it was going to be a good striking matchup. And Volkov's been looking really good in his last few. And obviously, Gane needs to come back and get a win. So, I was excited for that fight. So, it sucks that that's not on the card. But the next fight in line is a very interesting fight, because you got Lerone Murphy going up against Dan Ige. And this fight is interesting because Lerone Murphy just put on a pretty damn good performance up against Edson Barbosa. A 5-round performance. He did well for his first 5-round fight. You know, he stayed in there. He landed a lot on Edson. He kept Edson back. He wasn't allowing Edson to land all his shots. He was shooting, taking him down a lot. He was mixing the game up. I thought Lerone Murphy looked really good in that fight. But you're talking about a man who is just a precise striker in Edson Barbosa. Like, you kept taking him down. A lot of people know that's a slight key to victory with Edson Barbosa. This fight with Dan Ige, going to be a little bit more difficult. Now, obviously, we saw Ige on his back up against Diego Lopez, but you're talking about 4 hours notice. You can't take nothing away from that fight except for the man's got heart, and he's a badass dude. This fight, Lerone Murphy's got to be smart, because mixing up the game with a guy like Dan Ige gets a right hand that landed on your chin and puts you to sleep. Dan Ige has power, and he has lights out power. And I feel like because of this past performance up against Diego Lopez and the way that it happened and everything like that, he wants to come out and make a statement. He is the type of guy that you can bank your money on to get a finish, because he's going to go in there and try to get the finish. I fuck with Dan Ige, right? That's why he's got the nickname. He's a highlight reel. He's a highlight reel when he's on point. And I think he's going to be on point on Saturday. And if Lerone Murphy comes in just a little too over-aggressive, like just trying to get in too quick, he's going to get caught with a right hand. So I'm leaning with Dan Ige. I don't know if it's 50K or 100K, but 500K Dan Ige. That's the new nickname if he wins this fight. Because I fuck with Dan Ige, and he can snatch a lot of things away from Lerone Murphy. For Lerone Murphy being an undefeated fighter, 14-0, you know, stunning his growth in a very stacked division would be huge. And you know, Dan Ige wants to bounce back up. You just fought a top guy who rose to the top of the division extremely quickly. Diego Lopez rose to the top of the division extremely quickly. So if Dan Ige goes out there and puts on a really good performance and gets a nasty finish, he's going to rise right up the ranks very quickly too, because that's a division that's got a lot going on, right? If Ilya beats Max, then you're talking about a whole new thing of contenders are going to be swirling in now. So it's very interesting. So let's see if Dan Ige can take it away from Lerone Murphy. I'm leaning with Dan Ige. And I know a lot of people are probably rocking with the undefeated Lerone Murphy, right? Like I said, his performance against Edson Barbosa was good. He mixed up the game perfectly in that fight. He did everything he needed to do to beat a guy like Edson Barbosa. That same game plan is not going to work against Dan Ige, right? He's got to come in and obviously mix it up, but I don't see him being able to get Dan Ige down, hold Dan Ige down. Not Dan Ige on a full training camp. I see Dan landing some mean shots when Lerone Murphy comes in and ending the night. That's how I feel. We into the big dog breakdown now because we got the co-main event and the main event. These fights are stacked. These are really highly anticipated fights. And I am just hoping everything goes through. No problems at all. Because this co-main event is something we have wanted for a while now. And we're finally getting it. And the crazy thing is, one of these contenders did not want this fight to begin with. And I give him props for actually taking it. So, Robert Whittaker going up against Khamzat Chimaev. If you remember, Khamzat had a lot of respect and does have a lot of respect for Rob Whittaker, right? And at first, he was very hesitant on wanting to take a fight with Rob Whittaker. But he knows the opportunity of beating a guy like Rob Whittaker, where that puts him automatically. With a lot of ups and downs in Khamzat's career, he needs a good win, and a win over Rob Whittaker would set him free into the top of the division, no problem. He could be calling shots at that point. He basically feel like an uncrowned champion type of thing. And that'd be exciting to see Khamzat versus Dricus. I'm not going to lie. That would be an exciting fight. It's a very interesting matchup stylistically. You got a very weird striker with Dricus and a very heavy pressure wrestling, heavy-paced fighter with Khamzat. It would just be a very interesting fight. But this one is interesting in itself. Obviously, Rob has been to the dance a million times. He's been 5 rounds. He's fought the best in the division. He's gotten finishes. He's gotten finished. He's been in there with everybody, right? And I don't think Rob Whittaker is on that point or that place of being done or anything like that. So I'm not going that route, right? Rob has been in there with a lot of tough guys, and I think the experience is really going to suit him well in this fight. Now, I'm not 100% sure because it doesn't say if this is going to be a 3-round or a 5-round fight, because that really does make a huge difference on what my breakdown would be. Because if you look at this as a 5-round fight and Rob weathers the storm in 1 and 2, Rob takes over 3, 4, and 5. Not that Khamzat's not good enough. We have seen him fade because of the pressure he puts on in 1 and 2. But that pressure is so suffocating that you could end up getting finished very quickly, just like Kevin Holland did, just like Li Jingliang did, right? There's moments with Khamzat where he pressures you so much where you might be gassed. And I could see Rob possibly being gassed. But Rob has some of the best takedown defense. And typically in Rob's career, he is like a wrestler's nightmare. Like, he is not the style that a wrestler wants to go up against. He has good takedown defense. He makes you pay for your takedowns. He did it against Yoel. Yoel was struggling to get him down. He got him down a couple times, but he was struggling to get him down, if you remember. Rob was landing beautiful shots when he was coming in. He was hitting him with his hip on the take. He was doing a lot of different stuff, right? And Rob is smart. He has good IQ. The thing about Rob, though, is he's wishy-washy, man. One minute he looks like an absolute world beater. He looks like he should never be taken off the pound-for-pound list type of thing. And the next minute he gets finished by somebody you didn't expect him to lose to. You're like, wait, what? How, what? But the thing is, Rob is smart when he comes into fights. He knows what the danger is. And genuinely, every aspect of Khamzat's game is dangerous. Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. He has good striking. He has good takedowns. He's controlling on the ground. He's strong as shit. He's tough to get down. It's such an interesting fight, and it's going to be explosive. It's going to be explosive and high-paced for however long it lasts, right? If it's a 3-round fight, I might be leaning towards Khamzat, right? This year seems like it's been the year of the passing of the guard, and the old guard is starting to lose, and the new guard is really making its way in. Does that continue? We'll find out on Saturday. I don't believe Rob Whittaker's done or anything like that, but it is a tough matchup. Tough matchup for both of them to take. You know, it's one of those matchups in the division that nobody wants to take. Sean Strickland avoided Rob Whittaker, right? Paulo Costa got his ass beat by Rob Whittaker. Paulo Costa couldn't make it to the fight with Khamzat. Like, there's so much in the division, right? And it's so dope to get this fight, that the fact that both these men signed on the dotted line, nobody's avoiding anybody. We're getting a fantastic matchup. Who am I leaning with? Like I said, if it's a 3-round contest, I'm probably leaning towards Khamzat. And I'm probably still leaning towards Khamzat, even if it is a 5-round contest. I think he's going to come in and obviously put on heavy pace in the first round. I think he's going to try to get Rob down, and he's going to struggle. But I think he is going to shoot so many times that it's going to take away from the fact that he can strike well, and he's going to end up catching Rob on the feet. It's not impossible. We can't act like Hamzat doesn't crack. We know he can crack. Went out there, one punch Gerald Meerschaert like it was nothing. So he definitely has got power. He can hit, and obviously he's strong as shit on the ground too. So we'll see what's gonna happen. I want to see Rob win because I fuck with Rob Whittaker, and I'm one of those people that would love to see Rob Whittaker and Max Holloway both as UFC champions again, right? But I understand the game. I've been watching it for a long time, so I understand the game. I understand how this goes, right? The passing of the passing of the guard, it just happens. The changing of the guard happens. It always happens. Every few years or so, maybe every 5 to 10 years, whatever the case may be, it always happens. And it's at that point where it's starting to happen. It's starting to happen with Hamzat. You got Hamzat. Dricus is broken through. He's the champion now. You got Ilya beating Volk. Nobody expected that. You had Islam Makhachev beating guys like Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, getting these big finishes against guys that have always been at the top of the division, right? Changing of the guard has happened, so it can continue to happen. And I'm leaning with Hamzat in this fight, but don't count Rob out. Being able to use the veteran status, being able to use that IQ, coming through, making the adjustments, and possibly getting a victory. But I see Hamzat getting this done within 2. And that hurt my heart to just say that. All right. The main event, Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. Ilia Topuria says he's going to point down in the middle of the octagon the first 10 seconds of the fight, and they're going to get to slugging. I think that is going to backfire for him. I think Max is going to look at him like he's stupid. Ilia has a good 1. Ilia has a good 2. Max takes over in 3. Max continues to piece him up through 3 and 4. And Max is going to land shots in 1 and 2, obviously, but I think Ilya is going to take him on a scorecards type of thing. He's going to land more powerful shots. We're going to be questioning whether or not Max Holloway can take these shots type of thing. And I think it's going to get to the point where Max starts to change over and he starts to control the fight, right? He starts landing his volume strikes. He starts getting Ilya frozen up and landing shots when Ilya tries to come in with his combinations, right? And then all of a sudden, last 10 seconds of the 5th round, Max Holloway points down when Ilya's breathing heavy, all types of beat up, and all written in the stars, right? But that's just a theory. That's just something that I just came up with in my mind. It's a very big possibility. It's a very big possibility. There's also a big possibility that we can see Max Holloway get dropped in this one. There is a big possibility that Ilia Topuria is able to box his way to a 5-round finish. There is a possibility Ilia takes this fight to the ground and is able to get Max down, which is a tough thing to do. But could get Max down, could get the finish down there. Anything is possible when you have a matchup like this. I always want to lean with Max Holloway. He's one of those guys I just struggled to go against, right? Because he comes in and he performs so crazily. He breaks records with how many shots he lands at a time. He's out here putting up volume strikes up against anybody he goes against, right? Anybody goes against. He's putting up way more amount of strikes than any normal other matchup, any normal other person. He's putting up more strikes than we've seen in some matchups as a whole. You know what I mean? Like, Max puts the pressure on. And when Max puts the pressure on and starts to see that his shit's working, it's over with. It's over with because he's going to continue to piece you up. He's going to continue to gain the confidence knowing that he can continue to land. He goes from a 2-punch. He's going from 1-2s to 1-2-1 to 1-2-1-2-1-2 to 1-2 1-1-2. Soft hook, slap, 1-2. Max is very good at figuring out the rhythm. If he's in control, he's unstoppable, honestly. He really is unstoppable if he's in control, because he knows how to control the pace of the fight. He can put the pressure on you. He can beat you off his back foot. He does everything proper. And when you try to shoot on him, he's not letting you take him down. He's going to push you off. And one thing I love about Max, every time Max comes off of the cage, after his back comes off of the cage, he circles straight to the middle of the octagon. He doesn't stay there for the guy to shoot again. He always comes back out. And that's one of my pet peeves with a lot of guys, is they'll finally break the clinch and they'll stay where they're at. And they'll get right back in the same position. Basically how Jose was against Mario Batista. He was staying there. He needed to come out more. Even though I think Mario Batista's a bitch for that one. But still, either way, we're not talking about that fight. We're talking about Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria. Max can have a lot of success, right? If this stays boxing and Ilia doesn't mix it up with the takedowns and stuff, it's interesting. You watch these videos, people always want to put these sparring videos, these bag hitting videos side by side. And look, Ilia's boxing is sharp as can be, but there's one thing that is true in the game of boxing. If you pay attention, you cannot keep your head on the center line, and if you ain't got no footwork, it's gonna backfire. Those videos that you guys are watching of Ilia, I think, yeah, he's nasty. He's a nasty boxer. He really does have nice hands, but staying head right on the center line, flat-footed. So it's not impossible for a guy whose technique looks so flawless to end up being flawed. And obviously we know there's nothing really perfect about Max Holloway's game. Max just has his flow, right? And Max, when he says he's the best boxer in the UFC, he really is one of the best MMA boxers in the game, because he's not trying to stand in the pocket and trade and box with you. And that seems like where Ilia is very successful, is when he's closer. If he closes the range, closes the gap in any way, that's a problem. That's a problem. If Ilia can close the gap between him and Max, that's a problem. Obviously, Max looks like he has longer reach than most people, but he usually doesn't. He has long reach with his legs, though. He does know how to utilize distance. And if he does that and is able to utilize the distance, stay distant, land volume, I think it's going to be a long night for Ilia. I think this fight is either going to be a very depressing fight for a lot of fans, or an absolute banger that Max Holloway leads himself to victory. I'm leaning. It's funny because, like, if I was a bet app right now, I'd be like even, minus and minus on each side, because like I can't really decide, because I can see it happening both ways, right? After seeing Ilia knock out Volk, anything's possible. I mean, Ilia knocked out Volk, controlled Josh Emmett 5 rounds, straight for 5 rounds. Put the pressure on everybody he's fought. But if you snap back, if you remember, Jai Herbert landed that high head kick, dropped him. Max knows how to throw in sneaky kicks. Saw it against Gaethje. That spinning back, that heel kick right to the nose. No one expected that to happen, and that changed the whole complexity of what that fight possibly could have been on Justin Gaethje's side. So Ilia's obviously got a lot of confidence going into this fight, as he should. Being the champion, you should have confidence, but gotta be smart and be respectful and be smart in this. And I'm not talking about respectful in terms of how you talk your shit, do your thing. I'm talking about respect this man when he's in there, because if you don't, you might end up being the next victim of getting pieced up 400 times. 400 different punches get landed. 400 different strikes. 500, 600. That's how Max does. You don't want to be the victim of a Max Holloway record-breaking performance. You don't want to be a victim of that. So, final prediction.
Pain.
The best is blessed. That's my prediction. And that's my breakdown. I appreciate you guys for watching this. You know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell notification button so you know when the next episode is out. I'll catch you on the next episode. Your boy Bando's out. Peace.